Let's take a detailed look at the exercise 3-18, which is on page 126 in your textbook. We have an example here of Kingsport Containers that's analyzing its costs, and it's not happy with the variability that it sees, or the variation it sees in the unit costs from quarter to quarter. So it's asked us to find a more appropriate way of assigning manufacturing overhead costs to the units of the product. On the screen here you can see the information that they provided. They've given you all the material, labor, manufacturing overhead costs quarter by quarter for the year. What they did not do was to provide the information for the entire year. So let's see what that would look like. Here's the totals. As you can see, we've added the numbers across for the different quarters to come up with the total. And the numbers that we're interested in are on the manufacturing overhead line, where we have manufacturing overhead total for the year of $960,000, and we also have an estimated number of units to be produced of 200,000. Now with those numbers we're able to come up with a predetermined overhead rate. As the problem hinted, that's where our issues are. The consistency will be it will be fairly consistent when we have direct materials and direct labor, but with manufacturing overhead, since a lot of it's fixed, the variability in the volume of units being ranging from 80,000 in the first quarter and going as low as the 20,000 in the third quarter, that can put a huge variation when you're trying to divide fixed costs into the number of units. So let's take a look at what we can do with that 960,000 in annual budgeted overhead and the 200,000 units. We can use our predetermined overhead rate formula where we divide the units into the total cost, and that would give us $4.80 per unit. That would be the average cost throughout the entire year. We can use that rate to apply the costs based on the number of units in each quarter. Now there's other ways that we could do that as well. We could base it not just on the number of units to be produced, but we could also base it on labor cost, in which case we could come up with a 300% application rate, where we would just multiply the direct labor cost for the given quarter times 300% to come up with the amount for overhead to be applied. Similarly, we could do the same thing with the direct material cost, and that would give us a 160% rate. The real key here is that overhead total amount will not change for the year. What will change is the amount that is allocated or applied to each of the quarters based on the number of units produced, or based on the amount of direct labor cost incurred, or the amount of material used. Now if we were to apply overhead using these rates, we would come up with different numbers than what we had as given in the original text, and we would wind up applying that overhead based on our $4.80 per unit rate, or the 300% or the 160%, to come up with these dollar amounts for overhead throughout the year. If we were to add this across, we would still get $960,000 for the year. It's just that the amounts in each of the quarters would be different. Hope this helps. Just remember that as you look at the assignment, which is on 3-20, what we've been doing here in 3-18 is based on what we call a plant-wide overall predetermined rate. We only had one rate for the entire year for all the products going through, and that was $4.80. If you use departmental rates, then you must have multiple rates, and you might think about that as you go into 3-20. It's a little bit of a hint. Okay, that should help you.